We need Greenland for national security and even international security.
Denmark hasn't done a good job at keeping Greenland safe.
Trump's intent is no secret. He wants Greenland, and he doesn't seem to care who says no. According to explosive new reports from the BBC, if diplomacy fails, the Pentagon already has a tool for the job: the Arctic Angels. The United States Army's newly reactivated 11th Airborne Division, a force built for the coldest, most unforgiving environments on Earth. But can this unit actually take an island larger than Mexico? How would they defeat a NATO ally on their home turf? In an era where geopolitics moves faster than a tweet, buying an island sounds like a joke. But if you look deeper, this isn't a joke. It's a strategy. Trump sees Greenland not just as a chunk of ice, but as a strategic fortress. It guards the Jiaoke Gap, the choke point the Russian Navy must pass to reach the Atlantic. It sits on some of the world's largest untapped deposits of rare earth minerals. It is the ultimate early warning outpost for missiles coming over the North Pole. To Washington, Greenland is the back door to America. For decades, Denmark held the key. But with the Arctic melting and Russia's northern fleet expanding, the U.S. is getting nervous about relying on a landlord. The BBC recently interviewed Danish security expert Hansen and British reservist Crump. Their conclusion was brutal. If the U.S. decides to move, Denmark cannot stop them. The numbers don't lie. Denmark's entire armed forces number around 20,000 personnel. Their permanent garrison in Greenland, maybe 200 troops. That's less than a single U.S. company. So, if the order comes down, who gets the call? It won't be the Marines. It won't be the 82nd. It will be the 11th Airborne Division. Let's profile the unit. The 11th Airborne Division, headquartered in Alaska, they call them the Arctic Angels. But their history is forged in fire, not ice. Created in 1943, they fought brutally in the Pacific theater of World War II. They were disbanded, then briefly resurrected, then disbanded again. But on June 6, 2022, the Army brought them back from the dead. Why? Because the Pentagon realized a terrifying truth. The U.S. Army had forgotten how to fight in the cold. For 20 years, the Army focused on the deserts of Iraq and Afghanistan. They were using Stryker armored vehicles in Alaska, in the desert. A Stryker is great. In the Arctic, it's a wheeled coffin. The tires freeze. The hydraulics fail. The doors ice shut. It's a heat beacon for enemy sensors, and it gets stuck in deep snow. So, when they stood up the 11th Airborne, they cleaned house. The 1st Brigade, the Arctic Wolves dumped 320 Strykers. They traded them for a new god of the snow, the CATV. This is a cold weather all-terrain vehicle, based on the BAE Systems Beowulf. It looks like two giant vans connected by a hinge. It's unarmored. It looks ungainly, but it is unstoppable. It floats. It climbs vertical snowbanks. It doesn't need roads. If you want to move artillery or troops across the Greenland ice sheet, you don't use a tank. You use a CATV. Then you have the 2nd Infantry Brigade Spartans. Their specialty is jumping out of planes at 40 degrees below zero. Think about that. At altitude, the wind chill hits -60. Skin freezes instantly. Equipment snaps. If your parachute fails, you are a block of ice before you hit the ground. But they train for this every day. In the Arctic, the enemy isn't the Russian or the Dane. The enemy is the planet. The Special Operations Command spent over $100 million buying specialized Polaris Light tactical vehicles with heated cabs. Why? Because if your heater fails, your soldier is a casualty in 3 hours. Hypothermia kills faster than bullets. The training is grueling. Every soldier goes through the cold weather leader's course. They learn to ski, snowshoe, and build shelters. They are tested to survive for 72 hours with zero resupply. They melt snow for water. They build heated firing positions. They learn how to keep morphine from freezing in the Surrettes. When a conventional tank unit is stuck, waiting for a fuel truck to unfreeze, the 11th Airborne is already skiing toward the objective. As for the combat, we can't ignore the pedigree. The 11th Airborne is legendary. In 1945, they executed the raid on Los Baños. They dropped behind Japanese lines to rescue over 2,000 civilian internees. It was a perfect, synchronized assault that is still studied today. It proved that this unit specializes in impossible rescues. Now, fast forward to 2026. The mission isn't to rescue civilians. It's to seize an island. So, if Trump sends a tweet, Greenland is ours, the 11th Airborne gets the go code. How does this actually happen? Phase 1, the air bridge. It happens fast, likely in the winter when the perpetual darkness provides cover. The 2nd Brigade launches from Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson in Alaska. A massive fleet of C-17 Globemasters crosses the Arctic Ocean. Their target is not the coastline, it's the airports. Greenland has a fatal weakness: no intercity road network. If you control the airports, you control the island. The primary targets are Nuuk, the capital, and Kangerlussuaq, the main transport hub. U.S. electronic warfare aircraft, such as Growlers or EC-130, would jam civilian comms. Then the sky fills with silk. The 2nd Brigade drops directly onto the airfields. Let's be real. There might be a few Danish F-16s in the area, but are they going to shoot down American transports? Unlikely. It's a political checkmate. Once the boots are on the runway, the airfields belong to the U.S. Army. Phase 2, the ground game. Once the runways are secure, the 1st Brigade lands. The C-17 ramp down and the CATV rollout. Remember, there are no roads. This is where the CATV shine. They form rapid mobile columns, driving straight over the tundra and ice to secure power stations, ports, and the government buildings in Nuuk. Crucially, they would race north to secure Patuxent Space Base. Yes, the U.S. already operates Thule, but in a takeover scenario, the 11th Airborne would need to secure the perimeter to prevent any Danish special forces from the sabotage who opposes them. This brings us to the most romantic and tragic mismatch of the conflict: the Serious Dog Sled Patrol. This is Denmark's elite unit in Greenland. They are incredibly tough. They patrol thousands of miles of frozen wilderness with dog sleds. They are the masters of survival. There's also the Arctic Expert Unit, Denmark's new quick reaction force. But let's look at the matchup. On one side are a dozen guys with dogs, bolt-action rifles, and snowmobiles. On the other side is an airborne division with thermal drones, AH-64 Apache gunships, and satellite intelligence. It's not a fight, it's a sweep. The Serious Patrol might know the land better, but they can't hide from a thermal camera on a Reaper drone. The CATV are immune to small arms fire. The military phase would be over in 48 hours. The 11th Airborne soldiers would trade their combat helmets for military police armbands and start patrolling Nuuk. For the 56,000 residents, the only change would be that the patrol cars are now Humvees or JLTVs painted in Arctic camo. The reality is, the resistance wouldn't be on the ice. It would be in Brussels and Washington. Denmark is a NATO ally. This operation would be a diplomatic nuclear bomb, but militarily, it is a foregone conclusion. The 11th Airborne was rebuilt to fight the Russian army in the Arctic. Using them to secure Greenland is overkill. It's not a war, it's an armed eviction. The reactivation of the 11th Airborne proves that the U.S. is serious about the North. They have the gear, they have the doctrine, and they have the manpower. The Arctic Angels are the stick behind Trump's carrot. And in the freezing cold of the polar circle, they are the only game in town. What do you think? Would the U.S. actually pull the trigger on an ally to secure strategic ground? Or is the 11th Airborne destined to just stare down the Russians? Let me know in the comments below.